welcome to this different best of three. So this was the scheduled game, but we had an opportunity to cast that last one. So this one is the first game of a best of three between Smile, who are the CIS second place team, and VOR, down the other end in red, who are the Asia first place team. So this is actually VOR's first game today. And we've got Smile in green here, bringing Ohio, Kremlin, Des Moines, Minotaur, Double Nevsky, Marceau, Shima, and Yuyang. And down the other end, SeaRaptor has the VOR lineup.
Opposing them from the south, VOR fields an Ohio, a Kremlin, Venezia, Double Moskva, fronted by Stalingrad, Daring, Shimakaze, and Harugamo.
The bands for this map were Gearing and Kleber. Oh, we might actually have a restart here.
I'm thinking that.
The teams are coming to a stop. There probably was some kind of disconnect from one of the players. All the VOR guys have just stopped, so we'll just wait and see if it is a restart, which it does look like. We will be passing back to Chrysantos just while they reset the room. It shouldn't take too long. This does happen occasionally. Nothing to worry about.
And we're back because, yes, the teams do have a chance to call for a restart of the map within the first 2 minutes if there was, for example, a technical problem or an issue with one of the players dropping out with the disconnect. All of the players that are participating here are playing on the EU server, which means that, you know, there might be some connection issues if somebody is, for example, connecting from CIS or from Asia. Right. So yeah, we already got a little bit of a glimpse of what these teams brought here. Anything that caught your eye in particular, Boxy?
Minotaur. Yeah. The Minotaur is I want to call it like a notorious wild card. The Minotaur, I would argue, only functions on one, maybe two maps in this series, and Crashzone Alpha is one of them. There are a few specific places where you can sort of wedge a Minotaur in. It has incredible short to medium range DPM, a good radar, hydro, a super heal. All you have to do is not get blapped by a BB, and that's where the wild card effect comes in.
All you do, all you got to do is just survive.
Yep, that's it.
Pingu, what about you?
I'm interested in the way they will put the Minotaur into the battle. I've seen it moved towards the middle, so I think it is a radar Mino combination with a smoke, but yeah, I'm interested. As you know, I like Minotaurs. It's one of my favorite ships out there, and I do like to play radar Minotaur, so...
Yeah, it's a fantastic ship. It's also it can be a very great pick, but just as Boxy said, it also has a little bit of a issue with survivability. It does have a great heal, but on this level, if you are spotted, the enemy team will make sure to punish you, and then it's hard to get out of that position, especially if you play it with radar and you want to be very close to the action. The first map that we'll see here is Crashzone Alpha, which is, as I said before, it's the pick from VOR. The next map that Smile actually picked is going to be Trap, just FY, and Land of Fire will be the third map. That, of course, is decided randomly so that none of the teams do have any advantage. Phew. So, looking at the lineup, for example, from VOR, I saw they actually brought also a Shimmer and a Venezia. I'm always curious to see like how they deployed the Shimmers. We've seen this very well played by, for example, XII, how to get the most out of the Shimmer potentially. But then again, you also run into the problem of well, it's not the fastest ship. It cannot really pick any fight, so it mostly relies on its torpedoes and the ability to use the detectability, right, to kind of concealment their way out of tricky situations. How do you play against something like this?
Well, you know, one of the fun things about bringing a Minotaur, and I just want to be clear about something. I am not an advocate for bringing a Minotaur to the King of the Sea tournament.
So you heard it here first. Boxy says he would love to see more Minotaurs. It's the way to win.
There will be no Minotaurs. It's one of the nice things that the Minotaur can do, however, is in a pinch it can function as sort of a proxy DD. And as I was saying earlier, especially on these two maps that have the diagonal cap set up, there's a lot of open water, like Pingu pointed it out earlier, and I think in one of the earlier matches, having an extra quick, fast accelerating, relatively low detect, you know, even cruiser like the Minotaur that's got a healthy 30 plus knot speed, it allows you to cover more ground. It allows you to project a little bit more force. You've got the pencil torpedoes, which oftentimes end up being, especially on this map, Crash Zone Alpha, the ability, because there are so many places where people constantly take a lane, like those sort of channel islands in the center. They'll take those lanes, they'll post up a heavy Russian cruiser there or what have you, and it'll just sit there. The ability to drop those pencil torps is a really, really serious threat against a Russian cruiser that's not paying attention.
Indeed, and at least from my experience, the longer the Minotaur manages to survive, the more important it gets. I mean, yes, it has the radar, but especially later on, you will lose DDs. And being able to use the Minnow for various reasons and in various positions gives you kind of the advantage of having that sneaky cruiser being able to cap or reposition and then just farm the shit out of the enemy team if you get it into the right position. And here in Crash Zone Alpha, you do also get quite a lot of islands that you can use for cover.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would expect to see both teams take one of the two flanks, one of the two corners, and make a hard push around it. I don't know which one will do which. As I recall, both VOR and Smile are extremely aggressive teams from what I recall from the Verizon tournament. I don't know if I recall enough from the last COTS to speak on that, but they both used, especially VOR. VOR used really, really interesting, somewhat novel strategies of pushing ships up using smoke. I'm really interested to see if they actually utilize that on this map. It's a bit of a bigger map, so I don't know if these sort of crawling push smoke strats like that, I can't actually say whether they work as well on a larger map. But we were just talking about beforehand, it's exciting to see VOR versus Smile so early in international finals, or I guess semifinals, excuse me, day one. Because both of these teams have such a track record of being so excellent that I don't know, you're going to see something exciting.
I have an interesting question that Mr. Conway sent me over, and he's it's actually from Mr. Conway's hair, just to be precise.
Oh.
And he's the hair asking, what ship would you not bring into randoms but bring into COTS?
Oh,
That's an interesting question.
Because I mean,
to answer.
The thing is that, I mean, we discussed this usually when we have a bit more time, right? In terms of like the ship picks, you might see certain ships being very, very much represented here in competitive because they bring exactly what teams are looking for to be able to win a match, right? But while a ship might be very good for competitive, might not be very suited to random battles because you're looking for something very specific, or vice versa, right? You have a ship that is very good in random battles, but it doesn't really give you what you're looking for in competitive. And so it's cool to see this question being flipped around. It's like, okay, what would you definitely bring into COTS while you might not be bringing it into the random battles?
I mean, there's only one ship I haven't seen yet, I think, and this is a Wooster, if I'm correct. We haven't seen a Wooster yet, at least.
No.
At least
We saw Plymouth. But we haven't seen
yes.
we have seen a Wooster, yeah. But the Wooster's problem is that by now it has the shorter radar, right? So it needs to be in a position to be utilized with the 9-kilometer radar that it's very hard to move it there, right? So I would usually pick something else, especially also with the gun layout that usually Des Moines will do a better job. Or if you're looking for special arcs, you can. By now, you have a lot of choices in World of Warships in terms of ships on tier 10, what you want to use. And on tier 10, you have a lot of specialized ships, right? And you can just pick, like, I'm looking for this exact thing. And this is why I love the ship bans, because it kind of flips that upside down sometimes. If a team is like, oh, yeah, for this specific reason, I will bring this ship. And then it's not available because it got banned, right? And then you kind of have to have some alternatives to still be able to deploy your strategy or to at least have something similar. I saw a question. Oh, I see the teams are starting. Then I'll just bring up quickly something that I found very interesting in terms of what 4 teams will play tomorrow. So who's going to advance? And the top 4 teams were Rain, followed by 07, and then Smile and VOR, pretty much on the same level with only 2 votes difference. So I think both of them are at least perceived by our guys here on an equal footing. And we will see who's going to take the first map and then make it hard for the enemy team. It is a best of 3, so you don't want to lose anything here to make it harder for you. So we will be handing over to the casters with the second try at this. Hopefully everything will go perfectly well, and I hope you get to enjoy this match. Have fun, and we'll see you after it's over.
We are back after that little restart. The teams are allowed to call a restart within 2 minutes. I think that was VOR's restart, and they're allowed 1 each for each series. So this is a best of 3 between Smile and VOR. Smile, let's just recap the lineups very quickly. So Smile bringing Ohio, Kremlin, Des Moines, Minotaur, Double Nevsky Moscow, Shimakaze, and Yueyang, and SeaRaptor. Again, you have the VOR lineups.
Indeed, VOR's lineup, of course, hasn't changed. Teams not allowed to change lineups after calling a restart. Still fielding Ohio, Kremlin, Venezia, Double Moskva, Stalingrad, fronted by Daring, Shimakaze, and Harugumo. It's interesting to me to see this kind of destroyer variety. Both teams with the Shimakaze, but past that, both teams very obviously taking a different tack with their destroyer lineups.
Absolutely. This King of the Sea has definitely been one of the most varied in terms of ship choices. You're even seeing, for example, Yueyang's being used in both their radar configuration and their smoke configuration. You're seeing legendaries being used really well. So this Harugumo is almost certainly a legendary Haru because it gets that really long smoke screen. You're seeing Shimas, you're seeing Darings. It's just fantastic. The same with the battleships. You're seeing all sorts of different battleships being used. Kremlins, Ohios, Montanas, Republics. It's great. And I think that is largely down to the universal bans being standardized, and we had it on EU for the first time this season with bans being introduced when we haven't previously had them, and I think that goes a long way to increasing the ship choices.
We have enjoyed the ship ban system on NA for quite some time. I'm glad that we were able to finally kind of convince every region to go in on it, because I think it really does. Not only does it spice things up, but I think sometimes it rewards teams who spend time researching and learning their opponents, and it forces teams to have diversity in the available ship pools that they bring, and the quality and the players that they bring, right? Because some players are cruiser specialists, some players destroyer specialists, and whatnot.
Yeah, they do have to be a little bit more flexible, and EU teams understandably being a bit concerned about the introduction of that rule, but I think they've adopted it pretty nicely, and I think it does overall make the tournament much more interesting, certainly to cast and to watch. Shimakaze of Dead Kamek there, just grabbing the middle for Smile, daring straight into block. Shima of Renegade grabbing A for VOR. That one's going to remain uncontested for a little while.
At the top end of the map, Ferries Marceau will be bagging C uncontested here. The nice, again, we talked about it in that earlier match, the French destroyers, when you see teams field those, one of the big advantages they offer, they can use that blazing speed to pick up some early caps on certain maps anyway, and start to tick up points, give you that early points advantage, which sometimes allows you to leverage into other things later on, because as we saw in the earlier series, once you're upside down on points, past a certain stage, you have to make plays. You have to do something, or the game ends so quickly that you're just out of it.
Talk quickly about this Haru. So normally when you see Harugumo used in this tournament, or certainly in this this particular King of the Sea, they've been legendary because of the new legendary giving you the more puffs but shorter smoke duration, and it allows the Haru to smoke cruisers into positions with this huge long smoke train. But normally you would pair it up with something that's a bit stealthier than a Moskva. So I'm kind of interested as to what they're going to do with this Haru. And I'm actually wondering whether maybe it's not a legendary Haru. We'll see. Maybe it's here with the double radars to be a pure gunboat, just with the normal smoke. I don't know.
It feels like if they were going to use the smoke over here on the 10 line out of the Haru, they would have done it already to try and get one or both of those Moskvas up to where they wanted them. And Aruharushia just has not smoked, hasn't done anything with his consumables yet. So it doesn't feel like at the moment that's what that guy has equipped, but we'll see. He might yet surprise us.
Daring classic noun, taking a little bit of damage on B, throwing torpedoes back towards the Shimakaze of Smile. VOR currently holding 2 caps, and they will be pulling ahead very slowly on the points there. With Smile actually also going into the A cap.
Yep, Smile orienting now for a push into A. Russian Admirals Yang onto the cap, backed up by both Nevskys, WCG Ryder and Stepan.
Yeah, these 2 Nevskys making this push down the one line. This corner, I love this map. This corner usually gets really, really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Quite often, though, especially in the European teams, you end up with something like a Des Moines sitting underneath A at this corner, the island on the 3 line. But there is no such cruiser there, so Smile probably going to be able to just push around that corner if they want to, once they realize that there's nothing really in opposition apart from Renegade's Shimakaze.
Smile's Minotaur, or should I say Manitar, at the B cap with his radar, pushing classic nouns, daring well off the cap for the moment, as that allows a dead Kamek Shimakaze to pick up the B, and for the moment, Smile has total control of the board.
Yep, that Shimakaze there able to provide smoke for this radar Minotaur, which it's doing right now. That smoke going up probably means that the Minotaur's radar is just coming off cooldown. So
now
we'll be reversing back to try and radar that daring as it comes back in to block. But of course, Classic Noun will be aware of that radar, and will be just trying to stay on the edge of the range.
So now as you look at C stats, you're starting to see that Harugamo smoke. They had a specific place they wanted to use it, and it's to bridge this gap along the islands as they move, as they try to cut these Moskvas through across the 9 line. They're going to run Yenyaya's Kremlin out of the smoke where he can be seen, maybe draw some fire, move the Moskvas up through there, and try to wrap them around the top end of the C cap. But by the time they've finished making this play, they're going to be upside down, well, coming up on 250 points.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to enable them to envelop the C cap, but as you say, it's a lot of time spent going around these diagonal maps. If you're not careful, you can end up a lot of time being wasted pushing around. But then again, down the other end of the map, you're seeing pretty much the mirror image thing going on, with Smile pushing around down through the bottom corner. So both teams kind of rotating around through those corners.
VOR still not on a cap. 7 minutes gone, upside down, 300 points here, as they finally do step onto C with one of the Moskvas. That's Asphodelis. There we go. I'm going to get that right eventually.
Torpedoes heading in towards this smokescreen down on the A cap as the Yu Yang smokes the Nevskys through this push. First Nevsky. Nevsky, of course, not a massive ship, but if you don't have the speed, Stepan... No, you're okay. So they're going to be pushing up towards that island. Yu Yang does not have the longest duration smokescreen, so these guys won't be covered forever. But Ohio, Venezia, Shima kiting away to let them push through.
Another Minotaur radar going up at B. A little more chip damage into Classic. Nothing catastrophic. He takes maybe 2k there as he's able to sneak away. But Farm's Minotaur position is going to become increasingly untenable, given that he's got all these Moskvas and a Kremlin on his starboard flank from the C cap. They're going to have to rotate him somewhere else.
The Shimakaze of Dead Kamek in the middle there, just taking a little chunk. I suspect that was a radar from Dark Temple. Throwing torps back in that direction. So Smile flexing away from the push from VOR through Charlie, and VOR flexing away from the push through A, and pretty much now there's a vertical north-south divide down the middle of the map between these two teams, almost completely symmetrical, as they exchange shots mainly at the north end.
Indeed, both teams having almost mirror images of each other's position, but the difference is that at the moment, Smile is on nearly a 400-point lead. That really puts some pressure on VOR to bag a kill, make a play, sit on a cap for a while, try and close this gap as we approach the halfway mark of the game.
Yeah, VOR having to push through with that points disadvantage, but they do currently have a health advantage, just about. Although the Moskva, who is at the front of this push, is not doing too well. YBB is not looking too healthy. 16k and burning.
You can kind of see that Smile has also rethought their southern push as well. They're leaving Russian Admiral and one of the Nevskys down along the J line to kind of keep these VOR guys honest. But they pulled WCG Riders back up near the Ohio in the middle of the board, and it looks like they're trying to envelop the B cap with a series of radars between the Minnow, the Des Moines, and the Nevsky.
One tactic that teams do sometimes use is when they see a push like this Yu-Yang double Nevsky, is they'll try and get the team that's pushing to overextend. So they'll actually run quite a long way away, and the pushing force ends up overextending and then ending up basically in a crossfire, or certainly being off position. But Smile, I think, recognizing that might be what the plan was, and actually just stopping and just holding the territory they already have, which is probably a pretty smart position. The other end of the map, we might see YBB in the Moskva go down. 7k, 4k.
Close.
5k, healing through that damage, but not going to end up on very much health here.
He's going to start to come under fire from the Minotaur as well, or the Minotaur. No, the Minotaur. He's working on the Kremlin up north.
Yeah, I don't think the Minotaur probably doesn't quite have range for that. But the Moskva's still firing, confident in its ability to bow tank against the Kremlin. It does a little chunk there. I'm not sure, that might be slightly overconfident.
Yeah.
But then again, they are up against nearly 900 points, so they do need to keep shooting.
Smile about to cross the 900-point threshold. That puts VOR in a very precarious position. They cannot afford to lose a ship for basically any reason, or that's going to put Smile seconds away from winning the match. 2 ship losses would basically be catastrophic.
Judging by the amount of fire coming into DNO Gaming, I think VOR are trying to get rid of the Des Moines in the above the A cap there. That is pretty much the only chance they have to stop those points leaking away quite so quickly. AP coming over from Kremlin. Nope, not much of a chunk there. 25.
There it is. They do finally bag the Moskva way up at the C cap. YBB going off the board here, pushing Smile to less than 60 seconds away from a win here in Game 1.
I don't see where VOR are going to get this kill from. DNO Gaming has backed way around that island. Only the Kremlin currently has shots, really.
They're going to struggle a bit. The Ohio, way down on the J line, has been taking shots. He's got a gap to get him over the island, but he did not land that last salvo. He's got time for one more max. And actually, they're coming in right now. But they've lost sight of Dino.
Yeah, and if the shells aren't in the air already, it's too late. 15 seconds. Nope, that's a miss. That looks like the last chance taken. Ohio is actually taking massive damage here. Maniac,
but he's
just
only has to hang on 6 more seconds, and they'll have the win. It looks like it's going to happen. There it is.
Lovely dodging there from the battleship.
Well played game by both teams, but Smile claims Game 1 on the back of their strong map control early. VOR never really able to get back into the game.
Indeed, and this is the first game of a best of 3, so we will be definitely coming back for at least one more game in this best of 3 series versus the second place CIS team and the first place Asia team. Back to Prague for some analysis about what you've just seen.